hi everyone, this video is not going to be on wild fishes, so the evolution is not quite the same because these fish have been evolving by something called artificial selection. So this is a different process, and I will probably make a longer video because I know it gets a lot of hate. And artificial selection is a selection method on species, their more variants, their morphology is selected for by something like humans for aesthetics, for food, for jobs they can do basically. And that's an important thing to recognise. So here I have probably the most famous of your the most famous of the probably the only domesticated fish. I would say not fully domesticated because they can survive in the wild. And I have examples here of, well, so that's four different varieties. So I'm going to start off with, this is a common, so this is closest to the wild, and these are closest to the wild fishes that you would have got in the past. So these ones are single-tailed with a shorter caudal fin, which is, I can never remember fin types, but it's got this heart-shaped tail. They are similar to comets and many varieties of shabunkin. There are shabunkin with shorter tails. I believe that's the London shabunkin. Bristol shabunkins have a big heart-shaped tail. And this guy has a sort of a shallower body, much more streamlined like a lot of carp. But these guys, whether they're related to Prussian or the Crucian carp, are still quite deep-bodied fish. And if we look at them, then you get selection in different forms. So I've got here two pearlscales. So pearlscales look like they have what's actually called, they look like they're dropsy, but they actually have dome-shaped scales. And this one's probably not the best, but it shows a bit of colour. It's actually lost quite a few scales, which I don't know if they've just slightly decayed, or I don't know. But this guy is another pearlscale, and they've got these dome-shaped scales. They're also deeper bodied in fish. None of these are like high quality and show like quality changes all the time. These are just deeper bodied fish. You can see they're quite sweet little things. They do have, I would say, some mobility issues compared to other deeper bodied, but there's so many variants within one variant of goldfish. There's even more, so there's different types of ranch. You've got side view, you've got top view, you've got the Japanese top view, then you've got other top views, you've got, I think it's centre view, you've got buffalo, you've got, and it really depends what you count as a breed. So actually I'm going to do next my, this is, so I don't actually have any ranchu, which are similar to this, but they lack a dorsal fin. This is an oranda, this has a dorsal fin, and this is a panda oranda. Panda oranda is the colour, the oranda refers to the variety, and this has a wen. And this wen is a fatty growth on the head. And this is sort of, they're meant to have a sort of bulldog look to them in a way. And this wen is quite reasonable. Different oranda have different tail types as well. You can look at this one, it's got a rather short tail, but some have larger, more veil tails. It used to be a standard, I don't know if it still is, or you could get shorter, you could get longer and stuff like that. But this guy is definitely not standard, but he is he is an absolutely gorgeous fish. And they are tend to be deeper bodied. You get other types, you get hawkin, which is the hybrid between the oranda and the ryokin, and you get can't think of any others, but so these guys are selected for that head growth, a deeper body and a dorsal fin, opposed to ranchu, which depends really on the variety. And if I go on to my favourite that I've kept, because I love jiking, and I won't probably be keeping goldfish for a while, but my favourite had always been these guys. Now this is a butterfly telescope. Because of the formalin, the tail has moulded in a certain way, but the butterfly telescopes are a type of glow-by telescope. So there's two types of telescopes really, and these are globe eyes and moors. From memory, globe eyes have round eyes and moors tend to have triangular eyes. And then you get different varieties can have telescope eyes. I don't think it's a dominant gene either. So you do get single tails of telescope eyes that have been bred that way. It's not a gene that will suddenly appear. Like double tails, you can suddenly find shibunkin with it, and they're not whacking. Shibunkin can just suddenly, and comets and stuff like that. This guy has these beautiful larger eyes, and you can see he's quite a deep-bodied fish, and that kind of differentiates a lot of standards, I guess. I call the deeper-bodied ones the sort of Asian style, and I call the shallow-bodied ones British style, because it's just, I find it depends where you import them from. Well, not British style, Western style is the more shallow ones. Because these are an absolutely gorgeous fish, and I find they have no actual issues with swimming in higher flow, no eyesight issues, no mobility issues. They're just lovely fish. But obviously the only issue is swim bladder disorders, and I might make a video about swim bladder disorders sometime in the future. But it's a difficult one, and I think the major problem with goldfish is that their bodies, they are now not being really selected as much against this swim bladder disorder, and I find that the swim bladder isn't that it's being overinflated, it's that it's being displaced more than anything, and that is, I don't think there's anything you can really do when it comes to displacement, because that organ is being shifted, and that is the main reason. I'm just going to put them back. That's the main reason I don't keep goldfish anymore, because I never had issues with mobility in them, I never had issues feeding. The only issue was constant swim bladder issues, and the bladder was always being shifted towards one side of the body. And I have tried many different suppliers, and I'd rather not really get. So when it comes to these sorts of fish, it's really difficult. The thing is, with artificial selection itself is not always bad. It can provide many benefits in society for people and for animals. It can provide benefits. Selective breeding itself and artificial selection. Well, selective breeding is can be different. You can breed selectively, say, somewhat like breeding extinct endangered species and choosing which you mix together. So it's a difficult issue, and I might do a video on it. And for now, I'll see whether I do keep goldfish. I have well, I'd love to keep them. I've still got the pond, but I moved into a flat, so I can't set that up. And I do think they need something big with loads of enrichment. If I do set that pond up again, I would love to keep weather loaches again. I love weather loaches, but I'll have to see on the fancy goldfish side. And I understand everyone has their debatable issues on them, because they are quite extreme. But then so are a lot of wild selected species that in their habitat might be suitable, but in the home aquarium makes them difficult to keep. So that is a good point, that a niche species in their own habitat might be fine, but in another habitat, say the aquarium, they might not do so great. So that's food for thought, and there's a book, if you read Unnatural Selection by Katrina Van Grauw, that is well worth reading, or listening to her talks about artificial selection, and that might help make you think a little bit about where we stand with it and what we should do to help improve health standards especially, but also just for their own ethics. Anyway, thank you.